welcome to another episode of the Odyssey Podcast. My name is Jeremy Lally. I'm the host. This is an Ithaca Media sponsored podcast. Our guest today is a very special guest. Good friend of mine is Alvin Cooney. He's the owner of Asentiv Australia, and we're going to learn a bit about that and about an area he specialises in, which would be, I think to put it best, would be relationship marketing. So, Alvin, really want to welcome you to the podcast and thank you for finally coming on. It's been a long one in the making.
Yeah, good to be here, Jeremy. Is everybody a special guest, by the way? Is that how you introduce all the guests?
For someone who's been listening, maybe you've been listening to a couple of episodes, I do tend to say that. But genuinely, you are a very special guest.
Good, good. I know, look, I'm happy to be here and excited to be here because your podcasts are brilliant and I'm a fan of you too. So...
Good stuff.
Yeah, let's see where the conversation goes.
Okay, well, I mean, firstly, like you're actually pretty well known in the Perth community, which is great. But for those of you who might not know you and actually not know what Asentiv is, can you just sort of like introduce yourself and I guess what Asentiv Australia offers to the business community here in Perth and also in the wider Australian community as well?
Yeah. Okay. Where do you start with this one? Asentiv is a business consulting firm which specializes in showing business owners how to get more clients. You know, in a nutshell, our customers come to us initially because they want more business. And what we show them is a lot of other stuff as well, but the end product is their business actually flourishing at the end. And I say consulting and not coaching because I don't see ourselves as coaches. I see ourselves as consulting in an area of business development, which we call external growth. So a lot of coaches out there will also specialize in internal growth, which is, you know, looking at you, looking at your staff, looking at your culture, all of that type of stuff. And although we will cover some of that in our programs, we really focus and narrow down on the business owner having the ability to attract more, either more or better clients into their business, and it gives them a whole heap more. You know, at the end of it, you get a bigger business, you get a better business, you get more time, you enjoy your life. All of that comes with getting more business.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah. And we'll obviously dive a bit more into the specifics in a minute. But I want to actually sort of go to your origins in a way, like because. In case people didn't know, you're obviously not from Australia. So where are you from, Alvin, if you don't mind saying?
From Dublin, back in Ireland.
Yeah. Okay. And because I know a bit of a story from, like I think when you were at school, you used to sell treats or something like that. And I think that was sort of a bit of a beginning of your business journey. Do you want to dive into that and what you were kind of doing when you were younger?
I used to sell treats. Is that what you'd say? I used to sell my lunch. Jeremy.
Okay.
So my mum used to make these amazing rolls, just big rolls full of salad and coleslaw and ham. And I'm vegetarian now, but I wasn't back then. And they were just superb. And all of my mates used to be jealous of me eating these rolls. Now, I used to play rugby when I was in school, so Mum used to make me 2 rolls for lunch. So I'd have one at lunch and then one after school, and then I'd go out and I'd play rugby. So because I was... it was a long day. So anyway, I used to sell my rolls to my schoolmates. And look, without going into it in too much detail, that's really where I sort of got a flavour for entrepreneurship and running my own. I didn't know it at the time, mind you, but I just absolutely loved it. And it wasn't until I started to ask my mum to make me more rolls every day that she
it's
started,
like, you know, rugby training goes for 3 hours, not 2 hours.
She started saying, well, how can you eating so much? She's going, oh my goodness, Mum, it's just I'm doing so much training. And anyway, she obviously found out in the end, and it was fine. She used to give me 3 rolls. I'd probably have half a roll and I'd sell the rest. And then look, there was other things that I kind of dabbled on in school, but it all started from selling my lunch to my schoolmates.
Yeah, there you go. And then through the years as well, like, because you know, you weren't a part of Asentiv yesterday, didn't just start yesterday, of course, but you've had sort of different businesses you've been involved in over your career. Could you just sort of touch on what those different businesses have been and sort of the different roles you've had there?
Yeah, so I've always worked for myself. I've never had a job,
Yeah.
although I did for 3 weeks. I worked in my friend's father's bar, pub back in Dublin, but that lasted 3 weeks, and I then moved on. It just wasn't for me. But I've never actually had a wage for all my career. So when I left school, I started to work selling fuel treatment into trucking companies and big production companies. So that was good. Enjoyed it. Got myself a car, drove around Ireland, drove around England, just selling, learned lots. I then got a job or took on a role as a door-to-door salesperson. There's a story behind that, which I don't know if we'll have time for today.
Oh,
but
we definitely will. I think I know the story, but we'd love to talk on that.
I took on that, and then I built my own business around that, and that brought me to Australia. The first time out to Australia, and I ran that as a business out here for 5 years. A fantastic business, it really was. Superb. I learned so much. Anyway, so then I left that and went back to the UK and set up a business in the UK doing manufacturing cosmetics. And initially we had our own brand, and then we sort of morphed into doing contract packing for lots of companies all over Europe. And then I moved to Australia, and that's when Asentiv was born. And we set Asentiv up here, and it's been running now since February 17. So I took Asentiv into Australia in August 16, but I did nothing with it until February because you Australians fall asleep during December and January. So I wasn't going to launch a company and then into a sleepy world and then try and resurrect it again. So I waited until February, and we launched it in February 17.
Okay, I want to dive a bit more into that, but since you did throw shade on Australians, I actually that's something I did want to touch on because, working in, being from working in that UK environment, besides, falling asleep in December and January, do you see like quite a difference in business culture here versus other countries that you've worked in?
Not really, no. Look, Australians go away during the summer, don't they? And they, Christmas and the summer, it's just a great sort of couple of months that you can allow yourself to do that. But over in Europe, they do it at a different time. So it might be between July and August. It's just not as, it's just everybody does it here. Whereas in Europe, it's everyone does it in little bits. So there's some life still happens during that time, but and business still happens. But certainly over here, you'll find that a lot of businesses will tell you that no one makes decisions in December, and no one's here to make decisions in January. So, you just got to use that time effectively. Initially, when I got here, it used to drive me nuts. It was driving me bananas. But now I've gotten used to it, and you fall into this swing, and you just got to ride the wave, I guess.
Yeah.
But I think it's the same. In terms of business, look, culture, might be a little bit different. Pace, a little bit different, certainly with for instance, stuff that happens in the UK and stuff that happens in Perth. I'm not quite so sure about the eastern states, but certainly here it's a slower. There's a slower drive, but I think the area that I specialize in around relationships and around using your peers to attract business. I don't think that's different. I think relationships are universal. Mm-hmm. Everyone understands body language. Everyone understands bonds. So I don't think that changes anywhere. I think it's fairly set.
Universal.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we'll come back to that in a second, Alvin. But just like we sort of got up to, you're bringing Asentiv into Australia. What drove you to do that, to actually start up Asentiv over here in Australia? So
it was something that I had planned on. I didn't happen upon it, so I had planned it. So back in the UK, when I was running my business over there, I was also a member of BNI, And Asentiv is the founder of BNI also founded Asentiv many years ago. We're talking 20 years ago at this stage. And Asentiv was present and operating in the UK, and I experienced it over there. And I always said to myself that when I move to Australia, I'd love to take its teachings and its learnings over there to train the business world in Australia. So it kind of was something that I had my eyes on. Now, when I got here, I was here for a couple of years before I did anything. So, I arrived in Australia back in 2013, I think it was, and then it wasn't until 2017 that we actually launched Asentiv. So that time in between, I dabbled with a few other businesses and had a little play, took a bit of time off, and then I went and investigated bringing Asentiv into Australia. Yeah.
There you go. And I guess what it's really about, like you said, it's would you call it relationship marketing? Is that yeah. Could you just tell us what that is? We were sort of talking about it a bit earlier, but what is relationship marketing to you?
Well, relationship marketing is face to face, it's person to person, it's peer to peer, it's not online. Not saying that that's the wrong type of marketing, it's just a different type of marketing. And it's designed or what we train our clients is how to use their network in order to get referred or recommended business on a predictable and consistent manner. Now, lots of people, maybe the people that are listening to this podcast will think that isn't he talking about referrals? Well, it is, but referrals are sometimes they are random. They don't happen as often as you'd like them to happen, and largely you don't know when they're going to arrive. When they do arrive, it's you're excited to receive it because it's something that you weren't expecting. Whereas what we train is a predictable source of that referral or that recommendation of target market clients.
Yeah,
and you can literally put. You can plan around it. You'll know how many recommended opportunities you're going to get on a weekly basis, on a monthly basis, and therefore you can plan properly and forecast properly in the year. And we work it backwards with all our clients. We ask them, how many clients do you want? How much revenue do you want to generate over the next 12 or 24 months? And let's just work it backwards to see how big a team you need to surround yourself with and how you need to work with a network in order to achieve that.
Yeah, right. So, are you saying the predictability comes from building that team around you to, referral partners is what you're talking about, right?
Yeah, and we're talking about, spending good time with this team or this referral partner, so that both of you know what you're doing on a weekly basis, and you're able to reciprocate. Like, the currency here is reciprocation. It's reciprocity. It's you passing, it's you helping each other out. I'd never go down and tell somebody that because you're generating X amount of opportunity for another person that you got to get rewarded financially by it. You enter into these relationships knowing that somebody's got your back, and you contribute the same. So that's how. And when we put a full-on structure model around this isn't like there's a full-on strategy around achieving success using these methods.
Yeah, excellent. Because it sounds like it's not like other marketing sort of activities, like you said, like whether that be like Google Ads or that's obviously a big financial investment for a business. But this sounds like it's not so much like that. It's more like the time investment. Is that kind of where it comes from?
Yeah. So look, referral marketing or relationship marketing doesn't cost a lot of money, but it costs time. Yeah, that's how I explain it. So if I'm going to go and take a referral partner out, or we're going to hang out together and we go for a meal, that's the cost of it.
Yeah.
But the meal might be 2 or 3 hours. So it's the time element that I tell people, and I would suggest that you spend, so once you identify a good referral partner, that you spend as much time as possible with them, because you want to get to know them better, you want to be passionate about them when you refer them, and they, the same with you. So you do have to get to know them and drive that relationship deep, and that takes time. So it doesn't cost a lot of money though.
Yeah, right. And I guess going back to what you were saying at the beginning, like you said something along the lines of like, you know, you want to kind of have fun with this. Like, do you find that this is a more, I guess, it's productive, but it's like a more enjoyable way of doing business?
Yeah. Because you're spending all this time with people, you know, you'd get fat if you went to a restaurant every time. There's only so much coffee.
You'd be doped up on a lot of coffee.
So much coffee you can have. Yeah. So look, I suggest that you just have a bit of fun with it, and loads of I've heard loads of really good stories about people spending time together, business people spending time together and doing something out of the ordinary. One client of mine, I asked her what did she enjoy doing, and she said, I love going for walks early in the morning. And I said, well, why don't you arrange to go for walks with your referral partner? And they do, and they still do. Another guy loves basketball, so he hires out the local leisure centre for 20-minute slots, and they go shoot hoops for whatever length of time, and then they might have a bite to eat afterwards. You know, so it's just something different rather than going to the coffee shop and having a meeting for 60 minutes, you know, which is the typical one-to-one or the typical meeting that you have with a colleague, you know. So you just change it up and have fun with it and change your environment. You don't have to have coffee every time you meet people.
Yeah, there you go.
Although sometimes it's important, but
maybe if it's real early in the morning or something like that. But yeah. And for yourself, Adam, what would you say is the thing that you love most about what you do?
Look, I get a kick and a warm, fuzzy feeling when I see businesses succeed. And I just want to do that as much as I possibly can. You know, I don't go into my daily routine sort of counting pennies and how much is the company going to earn at the end of the day. Actually, it's far from it. But what I do go into and chase every day is success stories from clients, hearing their wins, and I just feed off it, you know, because I've got an unwavering belief about this, that businesses will fail within a period of 2 to 5 years if they can't get a steady flow of clients. All right. Now, you say, why do businesses fail to others? And they'll tell you that it could be, an economical reason, or it could be, there might be a different reason associated to it. But let me tell you, if you've got clients come through your door, your business will stay alive. So I just want to be able to show as many people, business owners, as possible how they can actually do that, you know. And if it's not through, our type of marketing, well then fine, great. I'll advise them to do a different type of marketing. But I just want them to succeed, you know. I just want them to be able to have, be able to provide for their families. I want them to be able to live a successful life, whatever that looks like to them. And I get a massive kick out of that. Yeah.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, would you mind sharing some of those success stories then? Because you said obviously you sort of feed off the successes of the clients you've worked with. Like, is there one that sort of sticks out in your mind as without picking favourites or anything like that? But I mean,
yeah. No, look, I can tell you two. One with an Asentiv client, and one which kind of one prior to me setting Asentiv up, but I kind of understood where the journey was going. But one in particular was a client who came to us, and he was in a business. He ran his own business, and he was just running around chasing time. He had no time for himself. He had loads and loads of clients, small little clients that he was working with. And when we, why would they need to go to a business consultant to grow their business? They've got lots of clients, and they've got lots of, and their businesses seems on the outside to be flourishing. But what actually was happening was that he had the wrong type of client. He wasn't making a lot of money. It was affecting his health, and he just wasn't enjoying it. So he came on the program and started working with us to try and find a way of changing all of that. And within 3 weeks, he sold his business. He actually gave it away and started from scratch again, because he realized that it was the wrong vehicle for him. And he then has set up something which is like quite extraordinary. Now, I think you might know the fellow who I'm talking about.
I think I do, yeah.
And it's something quite extraordinary. And, you know, every time I have a conversation with him, I'm getting goosebumps now. You know, I learn from what he's learned. So, that's you know, you don't get that, you know, in any other business, I don't think. You know, you've got to be able to, in order for you to help somebody, or you have to help somebody in order to feel that way. And he's, you should see him now. He's absolutely, you know, killing it. He's loving life. He's got a great business. But I'll tell you, I felt very responsible right back at the start when he said, "Hey, Alvin, I'm gonna sell the business." You know, and I went, "Really? Oh, hang on. I think you need to think about this. Yeah, you've got a business. Maybe we should just hang tight and see if we can change the way it operates." And he goes, "Nah, I'm out." And he cut the tie immediately. So that was one. And another one was before Asentiv, we were working in cosmetic manufacturing, and we had a client down in London who wanted us to come up with, he had an idea of a product, and he came to us with the idea, and we had to then flesh it out and actually design it and manufacture it and have it as a retail ready product for him. And it took us 18 months to do this. And it was a baby's washing up bottle detergent, which was 100% natural, and it took the milky residue from the inside of the bottles away, and it also took the smell of milk away from the bottles. So parents would totally understand what I'm talking about here. But and that's what we were tasked with, and we went through this 18-month exercise to get this product ready for him. And we did. We got it, everything squeaky clean all the way down to actually literally putting it on a shelf. And I remember taking the final product down to him in London. We were in a cafe in London, and he was anxiously waiting to meet me because he hadn't actually seen it and felt this product. And I put the bottle down in front of him, and I said, "Here it is. This is what we've been working on for the past 18 months. And, you know, the two of us have been working together in this." And I handed it to him, and he picked it up and burst into tears. And you know, I was looking at him going, "What are you crying for? We just worked we worked for so hard to produce this, and you're crying." And then he goes, "Oh, this means so much to us," and it's and he just sort of let it all out then. And then I kind of went, "Wow, this feels cool. You know, helping somebody achieve their dream. This feels good. I want to do this. I want to keep doing this." And, you know, you get, it's why you go the extra mile, isn't it, to try and achieve that little bit extra in terms of rapport and client benefit. It was just magic. And that was before Asentiv now. So when I then start to experience this in Asentiv clients, it does take me back to that story. Yeah, and that client today is doing really well in the market over in Europe. If you Google it, you'll find it. He's doing really well.
Yeah, no, I'd love to see that as well. Yeah, but so it's sort of I guess that kind of feeling that you really are chasing, that you get from working with multiple clients through Asentiv, right?
Yeah. And we bring 100 and something clients in. Well, personally, I would bring 110 say clients a year through the programs. It's all I do. I don't want any more. I can't do any more. But we have other trainers that would do similar right across Australia. And obviously our aim is to grow that trainer base in order to be able to impact the business community here in Australia.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, just on that then, because I know, Alvin, that you're very vision focused. I wouldn't mind first hearing about the vision that you have for yourself, but also Asentiv Australia. And then we can sort of touch a bit more about vision as a whole for other people as well. You know? So,
okay. Yeah, look, vision, when I tell people that I read my vision every single morning, they look at me as if I've got four eyes. And I say, yeah, I do, because in fact, I'm rewriting it at the moment. And I rewrite it every morning, and I take a little bit and I ponder on it, and I flesh it out, and then, it's time for me to leave the house, so I jump in the car. But what I tell people is that when I get in my car in the morning, I know where I'm going. And they kind of go, "Well, but don't you know where you're going anyway? Aren't you going to a meeting?" I said, "Yeah, I know, but I mean, my destination is set. I mean, I know why I do things. I know does that make sense?
Yeah. It's not the literal, Google
it's
Maps
not a literal
is telling me
thing,
going
yeah.
there, but
So,
no, it's like why you're going there. I
Yeah.
guess is really
Yeah.
what you know.
And I honestly read it every day. There's no word of a lie. Some people put little paragraphs all around the house. I don't do that. I have it on my phone. While I'm waiting for the coffee machine to recharge me in the morning, I smash it out and I'm in the kitchen. I mean it's early in the morning. I get up early, and that's what I do. And look, my vision for Asentiv in Australia here is, I would love at one point to have an article written in the newspaper which says, not necessarily about me, but about Asentiv impacting the statistic which will tell you that businesses are going to fail. Now, I don't know what that statistic is going to be because it's obviously a large amount of businesses. I mean, it's something like, 85 or 86% of businesses are going to close their doors. That's a lot of businesses. So if we were able to impact a small percentage of that, then wouldn't that be great? And I genuinely think that, the more businesses get to understand and know what Asentiv does and how, it's the culture of it and how it actually can grow and impact a business, I think, the more people that know about it, the better. So that's my vision for Asentiv. When is that going to happen? I don't know. I haven't got a 5-year date. I don't want the article written in 5 years. I just want the article written at some point down the line, and that might be after I've gone. After I've finished work or whatnot. It could be at some point in the future, but and that's going to take a long time for us to be able to do that. But I'd love that to happen.
Yeah.
And if that happens, I can, I will have a very successful business under my feet, supporting a lot of other successful businesses. So then it gives me the freedom to have my own success, which is not necessarily have a bank account full of cash. It's freedom, isn't it, and control and security, and that's I think if you boil it down to, if you ask people what they're really chasing, that's what they'll say. And I think that's what we're all saying. Do I want to travel? Of course I do. Do I want to ride my bike every day? Of course I do. But we also want to have that security and that peace of mind that success will bring.
Yeah, and so that's obviously your vision, Alvin. But what from like a conceptual point of view, what do you see the importance of people having a vision, especially business owners that you work with? Why do you see that as an important feature to have?
Well, I call it a destination. So if you don't know where you're heading, well, then you're not going to head anywhere. You're going to go nowhere. And I'm not saying that you can't be spontaneous. Spontaneity is good. It's exciting and all the rest, but you do have to have a plan of where you want, what direction you want to go in. Because otherwise, if you go back to that business, actually this flows in quite nicely. The first business that I told you about, this fellow who sold his business, he was in the wrong vehicle. He didn't have a vision. He didn't know where he was going. And what happened then was he attracted the wrong fulfilling life that was that he was building, And the outside looking in, he looked great. He's got a great business. It's he's got lots of work on, but he actually didn't. He hated it, and first moment he jumped out, and it's because we put a bit of direction in there, and we said, look, where are you going, and what do you want to achieve at the end of it, and what do you want to be known for? And once you know that, I think it gives you a lot more clarity around what you do, and also about how much enjoyment and impact you put into it. So I think it is a destination that you want to, which is the visions that we talk about. When we create visions for people, it's not a statement. It's like fool's cap pages of a place that they're heading to. Yeah, and then I tell them to try and live in that vision as early as you possibly can. Take moments of it and take bits of it and plug it into your life now, so that you're there quicker. Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you, Alvin, what's been the biggest challenge that you've had in your career that you've had to overcome, and kind of like the lessons you've had from overcoming that challenge?
Good question. I'd have to say it is marketing. It sounds funny that I'm in a business that does marketing, but you know, when I started my business in the UK, which literally started from my bedroom, and it then morphed into 14 or 15 years down the line, we had 2 factories manufacturing product for lots of the big brand names right across Europe. But when I started off on that, I fell into so many holes, and all business owners do, but it was largely around sales, knowing how to sell, knowing how to communicate, and understanding marketing. And I threw money at all these different fads, and none of them worked. And I just wish that I took a bit of time out to learn about marketing and what impact marketing has on a business. And I think if I did that, you know, and spent a bit of money on it, I would have done so much better, so much sooner.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think marketing was the big one. And the other one is communication, learning how to communicate, learning how to get your message across, understanding what other people want to hear when they ask you a question. That type of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
I learned that was like somebody got up and slapped me in the face with a wet fish at one point in a business meeting. I learned that lesson, and so there's a couple of things. But look, I've fallen into many holes, as a lot of business owners have, twice.
Right. Yeah.
And learned a lot from them.
Yeah. So would you do something differently, like with the knowledge you've got now? Is there anything that you would do differently if you were speaking to yourself like 10, 20, even 30?
Yeah. Well, if I was starting out again, I would first off, I would try and put a vision together for where I wanted to go, which I didn't do. And I would then learn the quickest route to be able to achieving that vision by collaboration, you know, through help with others, building a team around me, not doing it on my own. That's what I would do. I just go off and seek advice, get a mentor, you know, and somebody who's been there, and let them not let them guide you, but let them let them sort of hold your hand in terms of the potholes that they have fallen into, and also maybe some of the things that they could have done. I would definitely, though, say marketing is important. Marketing is any business. You know, its success will depend on its ability to market itself.
Yeah.
You know, you could have a terrible product, market it well, you'll do really well. You could have a really good product. If you can't market it, I can tell you now your door is going to shut.
Yeah.
Yeah. So marketing is super, super important, and there's loads of ways to market. You know, so yeah, that's what I would say.
Yeah, but you've obviously had some highlights along the way and things like that. Like, is there a highlight in your career that stands out in your memory?
Loads. And loads of different highlights in the different businesses that I've had.
Sure.
Yeah, loads of them. Let me think. One in particular was when we landed a client over in Germany. I don't know if I'm allowed to mention brand names here, but we on the podcast, but we landed a huge client over in Germany, and we did a lot of our testing on our products with them. That was massive kudos, because you know, still in my head, which is probably at the time I wasn't thinking right, but I was thinking it was we were a small business, but we weren't. You know, we were a mid-tier business, and we were doing really well in the industry, and we got this big customer on board. We got another one in France. When it went into Iceland, we had some big success in Europe with the products, and that, you know, and all the effort that you put into the business, and you get these rewards. It was important to make sure you celebrate them. And then over here, certainly with Asentiv, I see success, you know, every week, and want to see more of it. It did take a while. You know, the first 2 years of running Asentiv was hard, because we had to obviously go from scratch and start the business up and get it going. But yeah, we see success on a weekly basis. And only recently, in the past couple of years, I have set up a mastermind group. And I'd have to say that this is probably one of the best things I've done, full stop, was set that group up. And we meet once a month and lots of times in between, but as a group once a month, and we run through an agenda that we follow, and it's just magic. It's just the results you get from it are magic. And we converse about it, you know, right through the month as we bump into each other and meet each other individually, and it's just fantastic what we get. Again, another thing for your listeners is to join a mastermind.
Okay, like, and why do you say that? Is it coming back to what you're saying, like having that either like a mentor or peers? Yeah.
It's like it's not a coach. It's not a coached environment. It's a mentor, peer to peer. You know, you're mixing with businesses, and make sure you pick a good mastermind, but you're mixing with businesses that have been there, done it potentially, or experienced your challenge, have overcome it, or are experiencing the same challenge and are going through the similar journey, and you can share ideas with each other and just bounce off each other. And it's very, very powerful, you know, because inevitably you find that somebody has achieved success with that challenge. You know, and then they can tell you how they've overcome it. And also you look up to some of the other businesses that are in the room, because they are more successful than you, say, and then you can, you know, you're surrounding yourself with successful people. So yeah, pick a good mastermind. They're not cheap though. But having said that, it's a
good investment, clearly.
Look, if I knew about masterminds when I was setting up my business, you know, back in the UK, I'd write, like today, I'd be on it immediately. Whereas back then, I just hadn't experienced it, so I didn't appreciate it, and I can tell you now, I wouldn't have done it. You know, maybe later on, as later on in the years, I would have, but certainly when I started off my business, because you're invincible, aren't you? Like, I can do this. See those potholes he fell into? I'm not going to fall into them. I'll just leap over them. And I'll be more successful. And that's what you think. You just think you're Superman when you start a business off, but you're not. And you know, surrounding yourself with a team is key, really key.
Yeah, there you go. Now I want to ask you, Alvin, because you've got some expertise that myself and our listeners would benefit from, because you're like let's be real, like a networking guru in a way.
Okay. Right.
Don't worry, this is going to a good place. Like, because I feel like networking, at least as far as in a business context, is probably sometimes misunderstood. What's your perspective on networking in general, and what would be your sort of like top tips to get some, I guess, success from networking, really? Yeah.
Okay. So networking is seen differently by loads of different business people, and I think largely people go to networking events to win business. I mean, if you ask yourself honestly, why would you go to the event? You're going to say, because I want to try and get a contact. I want to try and be introduced to somebody who might want my widget. You know, and I think if you approach your networking that way, you're doing an injustice to the event. So the way you should approach networking is that you should go with the motivation to help someone else out who is in your network. And it's strange to think that. Why would you go to help someone else out? Well, if you put a lot of time and effort into developing a strong network, the way you're going to get benefits from that is by giving to it. You know, because then obviously people are reciprocal and they will then want to give back to you. So that's how networking, how you should be focusing your efforts around networking. So when you go to a networking event, don't have your business cards at the ready. I mean, have business cards, but don't have them rammed down people's throats, and don't be looking to give a business card to every single person. Look to help people. You know, ask them what their challenge is and see if you can connect and fix their problem. Not by you, but by introducing them to someone who can. And I think if you approach your networking that way, you're going to get a better result.
Yeah. And what are some, I guess, like do's and don'ts? Like you obviously you go to a lot of networking events, and
Well,
you
actually,
probably do you see some things you're like, oh, gee, that's not good, or you say, oh, gee, that's really good.
yeah,
Do you see things like that?
yeah, all the time.
Yeah.
I don't go to a lot of networking events. That might be that's not right. I used to, but
That's true.
but
But
I've
you've got
stopped.
you've got a fair bit of experience
Yeah,
in it.
yeah.
Yeah.
And look, what I would say, just a couple of real quick ones. Don't be the first person to hand your business card out. I think that's a real key one. If you do, you're selling. Nothing wrong with selling, by the way, but selling in a networking event is wrong. So don't be the first person to do it. Go with somebody. So I call it buddying up. So bring somebody with you. That way they can listen out for opportunity for you. You listen out for opportunity for them. And in a way you can help each other at the event. With a great way. Another way would be to have yourself a set goal to, before you go in. That reduces nerves and reduces anxiety. And also be prepared for conversations. So have, whatever the event is going to be. I'm going to an event actually next week, which is a property event. So I'm not in property, so I'm going to do a little bit of research on property, so that if I'm in a conversation with somebody, that I'm not, staring at the brick wall. I'm able to converse with them. So, and by the way, that research doesn't take a long time. I would say 6 minutes, 360 seconds, and that's it. Stop researching. You don't have to. You don't have to spend a lot of time with this, but it just means that you're comfortable, you've got a little goal, you might have a buddy with you, and that you know that you're there to help people. And that's what networking's about. Wouldn't it be great, by the way, if everybody went to a networking event and they wanted to help people? Yeah. Wouldn't that be awesome?
Yeah.
But it's not like that. And actually, it's why I don't really go to networking events as often as I used to.
Yeah. Okay. There you go. And I wanted to ask as well, like because I'm always like really amazed at the people that influence other people in their lives. Like who have been the most, I guess, influential people for you, Alvin, and people who've either inspired you or perhaps given you like a key lesson in life? Like who are some of the people that you think have influenced you?
I don't think I've got any famous people. Although
no, that's okay. Yeah,
I'm
it
sure,
wasn't necessarily.
Yeah, I'm sure that there are famous people. But look, my folks, my mum and dad have been instrumental. They pushed me down this entrepreneurial route that I've always been on. So I always go to them and look back on what they've offered up to us as kids. So that's one. My brothers and my sisters. So. My two brothers are very entrepreneurial. My both sisters are entrepreneurial as well. So I do ask and seek advice from them too. There's one guy over in Europe. He's in Portugal now. A guy called Terry Hamill. I worked with Terry or collaborated and worked alongside Terry for about 14 or 15 years in England. And he was fantastic. He really did teach me a lot, gave me a lot of confidence, and showed me, how to build teams and how to really knuckle down and make a success with a network. And since being here in Australia, I've got loads of others as well, but there's some. There's one guy, an unknown guy, no one will know him. He's a guy called Paul Bibby. Is over in the UK, and he taught me probably my biggest lesson in communication.
Okay, what was that?
Was how to communicate and to stop selling. Yeah, I was at a meeting, and I was telling, this was a group of business owners, local business owners that were there to help each other, refer each other out. It's and I was in this meeting, and I had these products that we were manufacturing, and of course 8 or 9 months into these into my membership in this, it was a BNI meeting. I nearly quit because the company was failing, we were losing money, we weren't making sales. I thought this group was meant to help me. Anyway, this guy Paul stood up and said that he had a referral for me into a local health food shop, and he asked me, would that be a good referral? A good opportunity for my business? And I went, of course I would. Why wouldn't it be? I mean, that's exactly what I'm looking for. I'm looking to put my product into shops. And he goes, oh, well, I've never heard you say that to me. What you've told us up until now is how great your product is and how, the quality of the ingredients and how long it took you and all of that, and told us about the makeup of all your products. But you never told us how we can help you. So I actually thought that you might have been selling to us. And with that, the rest of the room sort of looked at each other and nodded and murmured as if to agree with him. So after the meeting, I went up to him and said, can you just tell me more? And he said, look, you need to make sure that you talk to us in a different way. And he showed me that. And that literally pivoted the business. Wow. Because from then, we went from looking at the door to, huge growth. And it was that education that got me into like international clients. We took our French client on because I changed the way I presented, and we won some enormous work. We're talking like big contracts over in Europe. Mm. So, if it wasn't for him, I mean, I don't know, but
yeah, who knows?
We would have closed. We would have potentially closed the business. Yeah. I was looking at leaving, at that point, and because I wasn't making a success. So it's typical. You get a tool, and the tool's fantastic for its use, but if you use it wrong, it's not going to work, isn't it? Mm. So I was doing exactly the same. I was in an environment that was meant to operate in a certain way. I was communicating differently in it, and I wasn't getting success. Yeah. So when, if I wasn't for him, I actually don't think I would be doing what I'm doing today.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Paul Bibby, he's now retired. He was a solicitor or a lawyer over in the UK. Lovely fella. That's
incredible. Mm. It's when you think of those little things, like literally one thing he said has changed your life effectively. Yeah. There you go. But we are coming to the end of the episode, Alvin. But before we do close, I wanted to ask you if there's any, for our listeners, if there's any, if there's a book or books that you would recommend and why you'd recommend that.
Sure. Okay. I'm not a big reader, all right?
Okay.
So one thing, if you're a parent listening, just get your kids to read, because I often think that I haven't got enough vocabulary in order to communicate.
You've done okay today, I think.
No, I know, but if I read more books, I think I'd have a bigger word count in my brain. But I would recommend a book called Who Moved My Cheese. It's a short book. It's a parable about change, and it opens up with four guys having dinner together after their school reunion, and so they all sit around and have a meal and they have a discussion. And one of the guys they talk about change and the fact that I didn't think that I was going to be here from or I hadn't thought that my life had gone on the way it had when I was in school. And that brought on that conversation of change. And he then, one of the guys in the story then told him a story about, told him this Who Moved My Cheese story, which is about four characters running around a maze looking for cheese. It's a fabulous little story. It's a short book. You can read it listen to it on Audible as well, or you can read it. Great book about change. I can guarantee you'll love it.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Thanks for the recommendation. Yeah. I think I've heard you mention that before.
Yeah.
So we'll need to.
And for the people that don't like reading, it's short. Oh, and Audible. Well, you can listen to it, but again, it's short as well. You don't have to try and pick it up again down the line. You could actually hit it out in one go.
Okay.
Fabulous little story, and you'll learn a lot from it.
Yeah. Good stuff. So we are coming to the end of the episode, Alvin. But before we do leave, could you tell the audience how they can find you, or get in touch with either yourself or for Asentiv as well?
Yeah, so the usual channels. Obviously on social media, we're right across the typical platforms in social media. We've got a website, which we're a global business. So when you punch in Asentiv, which is ASENTIV.com, it then the IP, the Australian IP pushes it to our site, so you'll be able to get access to us there as well. Or Perth's a small place. Just see if you may already know me from watching the podcast here. You may recognize me, or just reach out to someone in your network, and they can refer you through to us if technology isn't your. I'm not. I don't go on social media myself a lot. I know we're right across it on the business, but certainly not on social media. So it's not my first port of call. I'll be honest. I normally go to my network to try and find stuff. So but you'll be able to find us obviously on our website and on Facebook and LinkedIn and Instagram and all of them.
Beautiful. Yeah. On that note, Alvin, I really want to thank you for coming in. Like I said, it's been an anticipated episode, and I was actually really glad to get you on the podcast. So thank you so much.
Enjoyed it. Really enjoyed it.
I enjoyed the chat. I think it was good, and we didn't unfortunately get because I know that story about when you did come to Australia. I would like to. I think that's something we can touch on another episode because there's loads of stuff we could talk about in the future. But thanks again for coming in, and look forward to seeing you again on the podcast.
Good. Thank you.